As for the undead, that's pretty self-explanatory. Right now, if you join Chaos Legions, you lose the race channel, but for all intents and purposes, you are still that race, and you still have those racial attributes. I plan to make a transition to undead a bit more interesting, and create an actual undead race with attributes based on the race guild combo at the time of the transition, or some other thematic pathway decision that they have to make. Lastly, for last item for Corden that I have right now is homeland changes. These are going to be possible throughout this year as we're going to look at how players can influence their raid zones with environmental effects and other NPCs. Right now, raiding is very one-dimensional. You kill the guardians, and then you sack the statue, and you hopefully get some players defending for credits. I think it's fun, but I think raiding should have more of an additional purpose. So when I want to raid a Luton, for example, I want to go find some stuff in the tree that's only there. I want to get some resources that are going to be good for my build or for something that I want. So I think that every city should also have more than just a single set of guards, because it's kind of lame that you're going to go raid and pillage and sack a city and you've got just like one or two guards. That's all, that's it. That's your only resistance you've got. The statue doesn't even fight back. Fuck. So that's pretty much the update from Corn for now. Last things here are the area domains, Stygia and the Underdark. Uh, Currently under development as part of an effort to restore the connection between the volcano and the Underdark. It's almost done, guys. It's in QC. Um, Actually, Eki, he's been working on it quite hard this past week because he really wants to play the game again. I have no idea why, but he submitted it to QC. Once he fixes all of his spelling mistakes, we'll hopefully get that into play, and there will be a reconnection of the Underdark and the volcano. And it's going to be a little bit different this time. It definitely kind of struck me as odd how he did it, but I think I'm going to like it. Um, the Underdark itself is also under some review, as we've discovered some issues with coordinates and teleport holes that needed plugging. I'm sure there's more. Um, we are trying to review the whole Underdark though, and make considerations for how it's going to fit into the theme of the game on a larger scale. If we're intending to move away from fan fiction loyalty, then there's really nothing we can't do, but there's probably some stuff we shouldn't do. In Manetheren, there is some development underway, which you may see parts of in 2023, but I can't really say much more as the Emperor might be offended. There are currently no other major projects planned in any other area domain. However, it's always a discussion about oceans, about what we should absolutely never do. Uh, Finally, the global stuff, and this is kind of like the big meat and potatoes that everybody always wants to get into. Um, we have some global projects in the pipeline right now that are due to be released soon. These are meant for quality of life improvements that remove barriers of play or reduce the possibility of player loss due to game design. I mean, you guys got to look around. There's not a lot of us, but we still have a pretty good core team here. So first, we're looking at the banks. Back in the mid 2000s, we had a thriving economy which was completely derailed by some European players, thanks guys, who discovered a way to duplicate money with merchant shops. The bug was so bad that many players had a far too much pile of cash on them. As a result, we decided to give weight to money, which limited the amount you could hold at any given time. And then we built a banking system which acted as a money sink, and you could never get infinitely rich ever again, even if you did find a bug. This was a purge level event. That's how bad it was. And it was successful for the most part. What we didn't see back then that we can see now is that money isn't the only thing needed in the game. What they really needed then and now is their extra inventory, the stuff that you're not using currently to be safe, so that you can go out and adventure in dangerous places and participate in player killing. One of the hallmarks of activity in the realms has always been player killing. It's optional and remains so. But for people to participate in player killing, they shouldn't have to risk everything they have ever owned since their character was created or started. To address this, we've decided to give players additional storage options, some of which you've already seen. in the organization storerooms. But we're going to go a step further, and very soon the banking system will become a vault system, and essentially banks will just start taking items instead of cash. There will be a cost option to open a vault, but we won't be using a crazy monthly fee system and a mud mail and all that crap. So instead, you'll just have to pay for additional space in the vault, and that's going to actually wipe out quite a bit of your money to do that. So yay, money sinks. You know, I like those. Some of the finer details are being finessed, but Ball assures me that it should be done by this afternoon. I'm just kidding. No, he's not that fast. Um, monsters. I love these. NPCs in the game are too damn easy to fight for individuals and groups. They're not very challenging. The Immortals are going to be challenged this year to write even harder and more clever monsters. The loot drops, we're looking at how NPCs drop loot. Why is it so predictable? And can some or all of it be more random or interesting? And then here's one I'm pretty sure half of this channel is going to be very happy to hear. Looting. The decision to limit looting was based entirely on the lack of player storage. I hope today that we can discuss some detail about how the Realms feels about looting if individual players have storage lockers. In my opinion, we should bring back looting. Max deaths, well, we went to an extreme, we went from, sorry, the extreme consequence of retirement at 25 deaths to no consequences at all for taking as many deaths as you want, for regardless of however they happened. Looking back at the past year, it was nice to see some raid activity increase and nobody getting hunted to retirement, but it also feels cheap to have literally no consequences. So this brings up the question about the physical body versus the soul. Does your current physical body have any unique value? What if we added unique values to the individual bodies through ways of specialized attributes like tattoos, runes, piercings? Which I mean is your current physical body dies, you lose that unique attribute to it, and it comes at a considerable cost to replace it. Is that something anyone would like? I'd like to know that today. And then a couple things here. Heads, severed heads. Yes, we are absolutely going to make severed heads valuable and collectible items, but also have some economic value to them. Collecting the heads of the most notorious villains or famous champions should have a market value that is generated by the game itself. Prestige, we're always looking for ways that makes prestige better. There is a project underway on Xerxes that we're hoping to see sometime. It'll probably be mid to late year, where you'll actually have a prestige restricted area. So it'll be the first time we've actually done that, but I think it's going to be pretty cool. Um, and then last two items, thieving and recruitment. So thieving, my goodness, this is going to be a rabbit hole. Right now, thieves have a gray area in mortal law that basically says that they can kill or be killed freely just for being a thief. But it also says you can't harass people or excessively kill them. So it's kind of a nonsense loophole that for guilds that hardly anyone plays anymore. The guilds themselves are a bit tired, dated for a game with doesn't have as many people anymore. Like those guilds were built for a game with a lot more people, with 70, 80 people logging in every day, and it doesn't really seem relevant anymore. So I'm looking for fresh ideas about what we could do with them. I'm not taking anything off the table at this point. And then finally, recruitment. So strategy for getting players has always been about advertising to people who have never played a mud before and trying to convince them to play it with our swanky website and newbie training area. This went really well. We've got about one new player a year. So now I'm looking at two different approaches. One is to recruit as many immortals with programming skills as I can get my hands on. The second is to lure players who are uncommitted to single mud play, looking for different muds to play. There is a mud community on Reddit, and that's why we actually have a subreddit. So I'd really appreciate it if people could start posting memes and just bitching about, potion tolerance on Reddit. That'd be great. Um, Facebook is pretty much dead these days, and the platform itself is hardly relevant to gamers. But I'm all ears if somebody else has another recruitment strategy we should implement that doesn't cost an incredible amount of time or money. Um, 1 second here. So that is basically the domain update that I've got for everyone. So we're going to get started with the questions now on the chat channel. If it's within my answer or ability to answer it, I will. But there is a couple rules. When someone asks a question, please wait until I've answered it. And then try not to pile up or limit the follow-up questions until others have had a turn. And please keep in mind, I also have a business that I run 7 days a week. So if I have to go AFK for like 20 minutes or so, I apologize sincerely. I'm the boss in 3 places, but the other 2 pay my bills. So for now, I'm going to open up for questions. Ask me anything. Crickets. I guess it's self-podcast. Oh, hey, thanks. Yeah, that's actually a whole other thing. Um, it's important to keep in mind that our game is safe right now. The game is safe. Um, However, as generations of administrations have gone by, there has been multiple backups that have been lost or just irrelevant now. And there was a devastating flood in my town in Calgary back in the day where I lost pretty much all of my storage and all of my things. And so I had a couple drives there that had backups of the entire game on it. So I had lost my backups. Darcis was no longer available. Skullslayer didn't have relevant backups that we needed. Saber, he didn't have the backups that we needed. And so we had to go back to Asmodean. And for a while there, he was kind of unreachable. He went dark for a bit there. So it was a problem because we weren't exactly sure if the game could be restored. Now he's been able to find all of his backups. So we basically had the ability to bring the game back from any point in history. I think he had everything from 2000 up till now, pretty much. So we loaded a few instances, and this is the one that I chose because it was the one that was most relevant to the game in my administration. So right now, the game is secure. We are looking at expanding our hosting options. So physically, it's fine. It's hosted in Maryland, I think. Yeah, we're good. Okay, so I'm gonna go to the channel now. Let's see here. I see Sadrian. Vaults sound cool. Could implement something with thieves breaking into vaults. Um, you know what? There's going to be some limitations, obviously, on the vaults. They're going to be very expensive to actually build the vault out. Like you'll get like the base vault, and then you're going to have to buy shelves. They're going to work pretty much like stores, so you're going to have to buy shelves in them, and they're going to be exceptionally expensive. I'm not exactly sure that the thieves will be able to break into the vaults. I think that would kind of defeat the purpose, and everyone would be a thief at that point. Okay, so increasing transparency in some game numbers, like yeah, okay, Lateralis, that's a good point. Transparency is a big issue for us. I think the historical mandate of the realms has always been to hide the numbers, hide the advanced plans. Don't tell anybody the bonuses. We've been very, very secretive as immortals. From an administrative standpoint, we've always maintained that the player should never see the numbers. Judge is a good example of us going in a different direction, where we're actually starting to give better information now. Personally, I would like to see the ROD website have a standard advancement plan for every single guild posted on it, just like one standard advancement plan, just so that when somebody's coming into the game for the first time, if they ask, hey, where can I find an advancement plan, or like what do I do with my stats, you can be like, oh, just go to the ROD website, it has the basic one there. So at least they can get up and running without having to ask questions on like support. Like I think this actually just happened about an hour ago. Sandrian about hiring security. Yeah, I was thinking about actually putting kind of like an add-on to houses that allows houses to have vaults, but they could be broken into. So if we did like the thieving thing, it wouldn't be for the banks, it would be more for the houses. If we put vaults at houses, you could have a very small um, uh, storage there. Do you remember hanging out with Triptych at Maynard? Yeah, that was a long time ago. Me and Triptych were, I was an alchemist and he was a priest, and very long. Oh, okay. So, let's see here. Sniper wants to say that 18 mortals voted for some form of multi-regulation against 6 mortals that voted for no change at all. The game needs to choose a direction. Are we trying to play the game we are accustomed to, which would require some form of multi-regulation for organizational diplomacy, or are we playing a new game with a different objective with unfettered multi? What is the direction of the game? Yeah, the multis. You notice the multis weren't on my list of things I wanted to talk about because I knew somebody would immediately bring it up.
You were
um,
avoiding that like the plague.
yeah. I'm just gonna put that big old pile of shit under a diaper and throw a match at it. But yeah, the multis are an issue, and I have a couple of ideas of what to do with it, and none of you are gonna like it. But essentially, we we got a really strong response from people wanting multis when we first relaunched the game, and you got to keep in mind, like, I am pro individual player. I've never wanted multis ever on this game, but I've experienced it now, and I've experienced being able to actually play the game with multiple characters, and I've got to say it's lovely. It's just great. I could be 3 different guilds, 4 different guilds, have a completely different experience every time I play it. But there is definitely a diplomatic failing here. Is that I could go be a Tekken warrior and a Templar paladin, and just switch between them back and forth instantaneously. So where does my loyalty lie? Is it going to be to Tekken or is it going to be to the Templars? I mean, obviously it's going to be confusing for the other players as well because they're going to see me switching in and out of these characters. So it's not that that vote didn't count. It absolutely did count, but it kind of told me what I was already thinking. It kind of confirmed that I'm not the only person who felt that way. That the multis are good, but they come with a consequence to the game that the game really can't get past. So there has to be a decision made about that, and we do have to come up with a solution on how to restrict multis. Leaving it as is isn't the best solution. So we need to modify it somehow. Yeah. See, hey, this guy, he gets it. Yeah, purge. Yeah. It's this way. We don't want to purge for no reason. Oh, the questions are being asked on the game chat channel. So I guess I'll read out the questions as well, just for those of you who are just here on Discord. So Slurm is asking, did you give any thought to allowing us to advance sub-skills without doing 5, 10, 15 above it? If not, will guilds be returned to account for the recent change? I'm guessing this is referring to the deaths max, the raised dead maxes that people were doing.
He's talking. He's probably talking about where ninjas are like for the drow. It's very difficult to obtain the invincible launch with the straight max without having the deaths involved, even though it's off of stealth. It's still, I think, impossible or definitely change in order to hit those specific parts of the spectrum.
Yeah, some people are on the spectrum, that's for sure. My point is though that's a very isolated case. So in the event of like a specific guild that is struggling to get their invincible rating, for example, on their specials, that's what your guild board is for. That's pretty much it,
What guild lord?
No, the guild board, like your bulletin board. You post that to the guild bulletin board so that Celery can look at it and be like, hey, they're right or wrong. I think it's a very isolated case because most guilds don't have that. There's probably going to be a couple of guilds that do have a little bit more of a challenge getting the rating with the existing advanced plans that they are using. Um, is there any thoughts about creating any new guilds or bringing some back? Oh, I don't want to answer that question yet. Okay. I think the most diplomatic way of saying this is, um, there is a conversation happening about uh, the availability of the existing guilds. I can say that I have uh, no intent right now to ask that any guilds be closed. And that's all I'm going to say about that for now.
That doesn't answer the question.
I said if it's within my ability to answer it, I'll answer it. But yeah, we have no intention of closing any guilds at this time. Um, but there is absolutely a possibility of anything changing. All right, you mentioned something about sub races a while back, like a way to bring back trolls or avials, or any more on that? Well, um, that's actually a good question. So the sub races, like specifically trolls and avials, they were cool. I'm down with that. I would totally be fine with half races coming back if we can find some way of making it work that wasn't a complete pain in the ass. Um, I thought they were neat. I really did. I thought especially the avials, I thought those were cool. Um, yeah, again, I mean, it was just one of those like really unique things that the game did that was really really fun. And then I don't know, we started ripping stuff out for no good reason. It's pretty cool. So I would definitely like to see that happen. Even if it's just like a quest or something you do, you go in your elf and whatever and grab a unicorn and whatever, fly to gay playland and become an AVL, be super. Let's see here. We have bringing back Wanderers. Yeah, okay, yeah, sure. Wanderers, come on. I don't even think we could find that code. Yeah. How is the admin team thinking of prioritizing the various initiatives being discussed? What might we expect in H1 versus H2, for example? I think that's a very good question. Um, it's the sorry. I think the biggest issues right now are porn related. We're going to be looking at that credit system pretty heavily. The warden NPCs, it's a lot of just work. Uh, we have to build quests for each race, so I'm going to be kind of convincing everyone to do those quests. I'm going to be trying to convince the whole staff. I'm like, hey, everybody pick one and go for it. The credit system's where the focus of the game is right now. It's more important, I think, to get the players doing something other than just raiding, sacking a statue, and rinse repeat. So those quests are going to be good activity generators. The other thing is definitely the player storage. I think once we get the movement done on the player storage, that's going to probably be our top priority, is ironing that out, because that kind of unlocks the next level of gameplay for us. That unlocks the next part of the story where we bring back looting, we maybe give deaths consequences again, and then we're just like, hey, sandbox, everybody, have fun, go beat the crap out of each other and steal each other's scrap. um, I think that's a good direction for us to go, because the brutality of rod that used to exist is probably why it was so successful in its heyday. I mean, honestly, the game was brutal. Like, the people were absolute jerks to each other, and we'd log in every day frustrated and angry at some guy and because of what he did yesterday, but we'd still come back and play. It's only when people made an effort to either make it personal or made an effort to hunt people to permanent retirement. That's when we went off the rails. But otherwise, the brutality of the game is the beauty of the game, and we need to bring that back. So that's all I have to say about that. Um,
I keep trying, but they call me manic. You know what I mean?
all right. So sub races. Where am I right now? Advertise one verse. No. Uh, every time it's porn. Yeah, porn. It's funny how like certain things in the game are pronounced differently by people. I love some of the names in the game. Trying to pronounce them, I'm like Barbang, Barbane, what? What? No.
Uh, Thresh asked the question on the general channel. I pasted it in this chat.
Oh. Alright, sorry. Multiple windows open here. Recruiting lots of mortals. This seems like a great way to sap up the player base. Or you're talking about bringing in entirely new people. Yeah. Okay. So it's kind of both. Because immortals are players too. So they come with that advantage of both playing the game and working for the game. There's a couple immortals who don't play it that need to, but everyone who is an immortal should be playing the game. It's the best way to stay relevant. It also supports the player base. So one of the ways to actually increase that player base is to find people who really love mudding, who really like these types of games. Well, who are the most dialed in players? Those are actually the staff of other mods. So I'm not saying that we're going to go out and poach other mods, but it wouldn't be such a bad idea if we invited some of the more talented people from other mods to come and work on Rod and bring some of their ideas here. There really isn't much risk at this point. It's not like it's going to cost us money or anything like that. And I think that there's a lot of mods out there that are dying, and they're kind of in the death throes right now. And there's some people who are looking for something to do. So I think that it would be a good idea for us to get a few more immortals from other places and maybe advertise that we're looking for builders. In places like the Mud subreddit, or, gosh, is there any other place where like nerds like us hang out online? Like, is there something other than Reddit that I don't know about? What can we do to assist with recruitment other than pestering people? Literally, you can go to Reddit, the Rod subreddit, just finger me for the link, and start making some activity on our subreddit. I want to take that and make it look like we are a community as much as we are on the game or whatever, and try to sorry, just reading it. And Ramos, yes, we're gonna pull up in a van and offer candy. Yeah, we just need to try to make ourselves look attractive to the mud community, because, quite frankly, we actually have quite. I mean, I've been on a bunch of these other mods. I've just kind of poked in as a guest, and some of them have like 70, 80 players. A couple of them have 120, and a lot of them have like 4 or 5. And I'd say the majority are in that lower scale, where they have just a couple people who log in each day, and there's a builder and then like 2 players. So let's see here. Moving on. What happened to trying to gather up old emails and finger information and trying to do a mass email recruiting old players back to the game seems to have a great return. I agree completely that getting people back is very useful to us. Unfortunately, I think most of us have exhausted that list. We have, literally broken our fingers fingering people, and I've contacted as many people as I possibly could. I think most organizations have reached out to their old members as well.
YouTube TV is more than cable.
What we're having a problem with isn't so much people returning; it's retention. Uh, for example, the Rockers crew, the Legions guys. They really like a grindy rod. They really like the grindy, everything's a risk game that we have. And I've been told, like, they're not as interested anymore without the grind. So that's a retention issue for us. That's a group of players who are interested in playing more grindy type games where it's a bigger risk, and without looting and max deaths, there's not enough, I guess it kind of needs to be scary. What Miyagi's saying, yeah, there's not as much of a draw. So we need to go back. It was a cool idea doing the multis and max deaths change and looting change to protect the game from player loss. But now that we've seen it, I think we kind of all miss the old game. Yeah, Rod went woke and went broke. Yeah, so I mean, I like the idea of bringing the game back to a grindy state. The point is that we have to find a way of dealing with the hunting to retirement rager events. And I think the majority of those events were compounded by the complete loss of your inventory. The fact is you'd play for weeks and weeks and weeks to max your character, then you'd spend a month making it, most of us would spend a month making an armor set that we're really proud of, and then we go and raid Sreen and we get fucking buried. Very first time we go out and fight, we get buried, and all of that stuff is gone. Not even looted, just buried. Like total dick move, major drow move. Love it. It's great. Like just your heart sinks when that happens. But it also cost us players because people don't like to lose everything that they had. So I would like to have two types of inventory: the stuff that you go out and adventure with, and then just a little small cache of things that will help you recover if you get completely decimated. And then I want you to expect to be decimated. I want there to be an expectation that you are going to go out and even the NPCs might just completely shred your inventory. Yeah, that's a thing. I mean, we definitely have run a few players off, and some people like to brag about it, but really, it's not something to be proud of. We're all part of this community, but unfortunately, there is people who have left this community feeling that it wasn't for them, and even though they really enjoyed the game, the other people made it unenjoyable for them. And so there is definitely a community atmosphere that sometimes we forget, and we just want to win, and sometimes we take that a little bit too far. No names mentioned. All right, so if you reintroduce okay, sorry, who is the oldest rod player in history? I mean, the oldest mortal? I'm guessing, yeah, I don't know. I really don't actually know.
It's almost certainly Aisling.
You mean in like playtime? Or like who's the actual oldest person? Because oh gosh, what was his name? He was a god once. Started with an A. Help me out here. Second age guy. Atreides, yeah, that guy was old as fuck. Like seriously, really, that was one old man. He's probably dead now. But, yeah, just age. It was probably Atreides. He was probably the closest thing we had to a senior citizen. I'm pretty sure he was a senior citizen when he was a mortal here. Okay. Let's see here. Sorry, I just got a little bit lost because I was drinking coffee. If you reintroduce looting, don't allow 300 items to be picked up instantly. There needs to be a delay system similar to steel that has a weight. And yeah, I agree with you there. being able to move a huge amount of inventory pieces shouldn't be instantaneous. It should have some consideration for, like, your encumbrance should have two numbers, in my opinion. It should have how much you can carry at one time and how much you can lift or grab at one time. So I don't exactly know how that would work, and I'm sure Celery is just like, shut up, don't say anything. But there is a possibility here that we should look at how to slow um, the instant loot issue. Okay, what else we have here? So much spam in between the questions. Oh yeah, there's the juicy one that everybody. Ladder Ellis just asked a really good question. Is there any plans for more PvE endgame content? Maybe NPCs that require a team to take down? The answer is, oh hell yes. Definitely there is. Pretty much every immortal, and this is true for every one of us that comes up. And we apply to the game, and we apply, and the administration gives us an interview, and almost every single interview has the same statement made in it. We actually log all of the interviews, and if you go back and were able to read these logs, you would see almost every single immortal says the exact same thing. We want more end game content and NPCs that require a team to take them down. So it's not an old idea, or it's not a new idea, sorry, it's a very old idea. And everybody wants to build these, everybody wants them. And then we all get distracted by the bells and whistles of chaos, or the fancy lifestyle that's in Corrin. We're so happy. Yeah, the PvE endgame content is something we want. I know Carl and Celery specifically have been cooking things up there. We have had a couple of ideas about players needing to work together in a different fashion than they do now. Being able to perhaps, without kind of giving it away, but perhaps control how combat works differently in a team. And so that's definitely a very topical thing that we have right now. I don't have a specific answer for when you'll see things like that, but I do know that dragons, for example, are going to be a major primary theme item going into 2023, as the main storyline of Rod is going to be focused on dragons. The actual main storyline of the game, as you do these quests, you're going to discover where each of the gods came from, how they were made, and how their races were made, and you're gonna see the relevance of realms of the actual dragon, because it is realms of the dragon, and some of the dragons that you're going to have to fight during these quests or interact with are going to be brutal. They're going to be absolutely brutal. I mean, the dragoness, she's tough, but predictable. That's the thing about the NPCs on this game, is that a lot of them are predictable. So we're looking at ways of making them more interesting, adaptive, or unpredictable. And I think that's kind of the way we want to go. Okay. Dragons could raid homelands. I would prefer if I could ride a dragon into a homeland. That'd be really fun. Burn a looting down. Would it be cool if the destructible inventory stuff had to be purchased with currency from advanced PvE content to drive activity on both? Oh, sorry, I'm reading the wrong channel. You know what? I really should have turned off all of the org channels first. Wow, so spammy. So Rod is essentially in beta. Yeah, 20-something years in beta. Is there anything players can do to help the development of the game? Could we make this beta session of a rewarding and praising models publicly? Unforeseen issues of the code. Okay, so basically, Sniper's looking for a gold star every time that he helps us solve a problem, and it's true actually. players have constantly pushed, kind of pushed an agenda of how they want to play the game, and it forces us as an administration to make changes or to make some sort of public statement that changes the course of the game. I'm not really going to hand out gold stars for being a pain in my ass and spamming me every day, but I will say that without the players making this effort and actually um, putting in the work, um, we wouldn't have anything to do. Like we wouldn't have a game to code for. So I really do appreciate the feedback that we're constantly getting from everybody, but we can't fix everything instantaneously. And also, just because one group has a problem with something, that doesn't mean that it's the game ruining item there. There's not, like, just because you have an issue with something, yeah, we get it. Like it's ruining your vibe, bro. But for the rest of us, we've got other things we're doing too. So it's a weird question, quite frankly. What else? Yeah, we, Sildereth, please keep submitting bugs regardless how small. Congratulations, you're now in charge of bug reports. Oh no. Yeah, exactly. I guess I should probably quickly mention that when you submit a bug report, please stand in the room that is relevant to the domain you are submitting the bug report to. So if you are complaining about a guild spell, item, whatever, if it's a guild command or anything guild related, go stand in a guild room. Don't stand in Hesvent, for example. Yeah. Don't send your bug report for chaos to Stygia. I don't want them. How will the admins intake player feedback about these changes? Probably drunk, to be honest with you. Let's see. For room-specific bugs, does the report show the room the player stood in when using the command? Yeah, so if you type bug or typo or idea, and then you type whatever your message is, it sends a log to that domain lord, and it tells me what room you were standing in and whatever message you attached to it. So if you type bug, this room sucks, the room that you're standing in is actually going to be where it gets filed in that directory. So it's really important to just file your reports as cleanly as possible to give them a chance of actually being fixed. Yeah, if you actually are wondering, just type domain. If you want to know what domain you're standing in, type domain. It's one of those weird things that nobody ever actually looks at, but it's very useful. Because yeah, I have a lot of area domains, unfortunately, and I get tons of reports of guild stuff that just makes no sense. Yeah, exactly. Celery. I think Celery's worried now because I just told everybody how to report bugs to him. Did you figure out what I broke in Blobland the other day? I think Celery tried, but he was unable to reproduce the error entirely. We have a pretty good theory. Yeah, it's a working theory about how it happened. It has to do with timers, basically. So you told me that you had gone AFK for a phone call, and we think one of the timers expired. So there's been an adjustment made, but we'll have to see if it happens again. Blob's kind of an interesting area, so it's bound to have a couple of things that we have to clean up afterwards, but it's still working pretty well. Question here. Any plans to reduce the amount of potions required to play this game so we don't have to rename it Realms of the Potions? Boo. The amount of potions is literally Chaos's bag. I'm gonna blame Chaos for this entirely. Mostly Leo and Saber. I'm gonna blame them for it. With tolerance, it really really made things interesting. I will admit, as a former alchemist GM, didn't really like the tolerance situation. Cost me money, but we kind of went down that road already, and we can't really undo that. Also, tolerance does help fights end sooner than later. I would say that there's really nothing broken about the potion system that we use it right now, but for some guilds, it's a lot more challenging to manage their combat rounds because they have so many commands that they have to use, and their healing is a little bit different. Yeah, it's definitely a challenge of balance for chaos, and I don't want to interfere with that personally. I think if you're gonna be the Lord of Chaos, for example, you need to be the only person that's really trying to find that balance in potions. And if everybody else is telling you what to do all the time when it comes to potions and tolerance, it's gonna break the game. So we have a working system right now. I don't think that it's something that I want to interfere with. Can we expect more safe room XP areas while trying to bring back a more ruthless game? Sarcasm. No. I mean, they're not really safe rooms. But they could be. I mean, essentially, I guess they're not intended to be safe rooms. The blob area, well, really cool, did achieve something that has never been achieved before. Is that the area can't be botted entirely. You can't fully walk away from your computer when you're in that area. And we wanted to see what would happen if players would actually use it. I think it's probably one of the most interesting XP areas we've ever had, but I don't think the security for the players inside it is completely necessary. There may be an opportunity there for us to, if we look at thieving differently, introduce some risk elements to it. But as it was mentioned before, rods in beta. Well, this is the first time we've ever done an XP area that has a CAPTCHA, where you have to answer questions. So I think the next development of this type of CAPTCHA base XP area will probably be a little bit more like Realms itself, where you can have some risk. I think that there is definitely an opportunity even for the existing blob area to become more risky. I personally would like to see the NPCs turned up a little bit and be a little bit more lethal, as well as a little bit more unpredictable. I want to see more people dying in there. There's clearly not enough people dying. So I can see Celery editing it right now. What are you doing? I can say that, yeah, I would love to see better risk factors in that area. But for now, it is definitely doing as we intended it to do, and that is to reward people who are not botting. I'm not I mean, for anybody who's actually ever played with me as a player, I'm a hardcore botter. I will bot the living crap out of every single XP area on this game. I mean, I've made bots that'll walk between 6 different cities and collect money for me, and it just runs in an infinite loop. But I'm at the keyboard, and if I step away from it and I die, that's the consequences of it. Like, that's just going to happen. But it takes a lot longer to max my way than going in blob and actually sitting at the keyboard and typing around. I just actually finished one of my characters. I did the temple max for a character in the blob area, and I gotta say my hand was a little bit sore by the end of it. It was really great. It was really fast, but my hand was a bit sore. So I think I'm gonna probably do a mixture of standard XPing and blob until they learn how to bot it. Sorry, Celery. It's gonna happen. All right. What do we got here? Are we trying to move towards a war system where players are forced to actually compete versus each other? Or do you feel the old war system where scoreboard and hide benefits us more? Good question. Really good question. What I can say is that wars have never been successful in the game in the eyes of the players in them. So everybody who's ever been in a war on Rod hates the wars on Rod, but they still want a war on Rod. They don't like the rules, or they don't like the mechanics. They don't like the interference. They don't like that the other team won't come out in the fight. And what happens quite often is people will post these declarations, or they'll make demands or something, or it'll be the culmination of some conflict that's finally going to be official. And then nothing happens. Both sides. It's like watching old people fuck. It's just stale. Both sides are going to just sit in their orgs, and then they'll group together. They'll go quickly, ring the doorbell of the other homeland, and then by the time the other team gets ready, they've already left. So it's just ding dong ditch back and forth. It's more like ding dong bitch in this case, because everyone just, they go quickly raid and then they complain, raid and complain, raid and complain. So clearly that's not working. We definitely need a mechanic to force a resolution of some kind. We need something that's going to give players a conclusion. I mean, wars don't necessarily have to be about, the worst possible level of consequences. And what it could really be about is just trying to score some points or get some credits. Maybe it could have a really cool consequence, like if you war and you don't try to defend yourself, maybe your org doesn't have joining for a week or something. Just like the simple consequences that can be built into the game. I mean, there's tons of possibilities there, but the point is that we can't have one group of really active players running around declaring war on everybody and then just basically decimating them, locking them down so that they can't play the game infinitely. So there has to be term limits or time limits on wars. Infinite wars between sides that don't want to deal with each other, that's not going to work out. But for example, like let's just take a look at the current war as an example. Neither one of these sides really seem interested in doing anything, but neither side really seems interested in ending the war. Like I don't hear people complaining on both sides going, "Oh, this is just ruining my day" or anything. No, they're totally fine with being at war with each other. They were at war with each other before the declaration happened. So quite frankly, this war could continue all but a year for all I care. I wouldn't mind seeing some action, but the truth is that it's not having consequences to either side. It really isn't. So I would definitely see some action, guys. There's been so many close calls. I mean, as an immortal, I can see where everybody is and who's raiding who and who's doing stuff and making stuff to get a team together to go kill each other. And it's been a near miss again and again and again. And I just can't believe nobody has died. I mean, honestly, I'm probably going to die before this war has a score. So moving up, let's see here. What's the future hold for the war system? Yeah, it drags to an absolute halt. You're right. It's boring. No room is safe. Yeah. Okay. So there is definitely the running comment, and we've heard this again and again, that during a war, no room should be safe. I like it, but I also think that locate needs to be looked at. We basically have the system right now where you can locate each other, and you always know where each other are. So you're all just going to sit at the board in your org room or in your storage room or wherever, and nobody ever moves. They're like, okay, well, they're sitting in org and we're sitting in org. Like, let's go raid. Ooh, boring. If you didn't have locate during a war, or you didn't have locate at all in the game, it'd be probably a little bit more interesting. Let's see here. Oh yeah, and idle times. Okay, can I just dispel the idle time thing? If I locate you, your idle time's going to reset. Why? Because you have a stupid trigger to say, "Oh, I'm being located," on your org channel. The idle times thing's a myth. Well, why do we have periods at the ends of our sentences? We just do. Like, literally, it doesn't cause any problems whatsoever. I'm telling you, if you guys are relying on idle times for whether or not you go out and fight, you've got bigger problems. Like, literally, it's so easy to control your idle times. I mean, it's not even. Yeah, it's nuts. Have you considered changing the policy on idling and botting to be more adaptive? Yep. I am definitely considering taking some scissors to mortal law. Specifically with idling. I really don't have a problem with the support guilds, sitting around providing spells. I really don't have a problem with that. What I do have a problem with is people making huge gains when they're not at the keyboard. So if you're literally playing the game while you're in a different room, I still have a problem with that. And again, I'm a prolific botter, but I'm doing it where I can monitor my screen. And it's really important to do some sort of administrative punishment for people who are making huge gains and having an advantage of the game without actually playing it. It's definitely an unfair advantage, and I'm not going to support that at all. So I'm not going to be taking out botting rules, but I am going to be looking at the policy on idling and making that a little bit more flexible. But I might also look at dropping people who are online for more than 24 hours at a time. Like if you're on for 24 hours, I'm probably going to give you a break. Let's see here. Oh, okay. Ladder Alice had a really good point here. How about posting the order Corrin is looking at the orcs, so I can be ready with my 3 requests. If you finger Corrin, you'll know if you're on my plate right now. That's pretty much the only thing I'm going to commit to, is the Corrin finger information is going to be updated with what we're currently dealing with. Thresh is asking, enforced or an alive check regarding 24 hours gets a break. I mean, I'm thinking that if you've been logged into the game for 24 hours, the game itself should just boot you. Bolo, oh my god, that dude lost his computer somehow. He had some sort of an issue. Yeah, we're trying to get him back for a while now. Let's see here. Sorry. Okay, yeah. So I'm gonna actually, Andramelis had mentioned something on the creator channel, but I think it's actually kind of relevant to this. Is that wars could be more like an OMIQ event. If people were up to it, if people were interested, wars could be more more OMIQ based, more like, okay, well, this is an event and it's going to have like, a couple structured elements to it, and then it's over. You could pre-plan, you could help organize the fights pretty much. And then this is kind of what I had mentioned in my response to the declaration post, is that I reserve the right to encourage activity. And that wasn't meant me to be saying like I'm going to force the war to, like, to pick 2 people up and drop them in a room and make them fight. It was more that I'm interested in helping coordinate the fights if I need to. And I think there's been a few offers made on both sides of this war to have like a 2v2 or a 3v3. It's something we could do, but again, it's something that takes my time away from development of the game. So it's not a great long-term solution for wars. It's just not. Having immortals having to babysit wars. It's something the players should be able to do themselves, to arrange themselves, or have the system in place to where the system says, okay, you have to complete 1v1 within 24 hours, or a 2v2 within 48 hours, something like that. Okay. Several types of wars. That Yagi, that's actually a thing that I think you and I had discussed earlier. Is the Khorne battlefield is lost right now. I'm trying to get the backups for it restored from Asmodean. If we were to bring back the battlefield, I would not make it mandatory. I would make it optional, so that people could still fight the type of war they want to fight. But if they both agreed, they could enable the battlefield. And I think that's a very nice way to say, you know what, this war is not going anywhere the way we had hoped. Neither side's advancing. Why don't we put the last few days on the battlefield and then just slug it out? And then it could just be something that's in the system already that we could just enable. So I'm just reading people's text here. Yeah, Trap Singer, you're right. Like, it is a nice diplomatic way to resolve war. You know, have like a structure. In a war event, you have this many fights. You know, you've got this time limit to complete them. It's more the what if, like what are the conditions if either side or both sides fail to show up or produce the results that we're looking for. And I think that's the biggest issue with all wars, is that one side will declare and either both sides are really committed to the war and they want to fight, or only one side is, and they just kind of write it out and it's really stale and boring like this one. I think the thing also we have to consider is that we are a lot older now, and we have families, we have jobs, we have businesses, we have things that are going on. It's kind of hard to fight wars in the old way. The old way was you just basically sit around and wait for opportunities, and quite often it was a numbers game. Like if each side has 5 people on, neither side goes out. But if it's 3 versus 2, then there might be a chance of a fight there. Let's see here. Yeah, there should probably be a way to end the stalemate. In the event of an actual stalemate, I would probably just approach the org masters and ask them how they want to deal with it. I'm pretty confident OMs amongst themselves could come up with a solution. And again, I don't want to be arbitrating. I don't want to be dealing with all of that. But at the very end, if there is no resolution to a war, then I have to ask the question: is the conflict still there? Because if the conflict is still there in a war, the war should continue until there's a resolution. So that's basically my plan right now. So if you guys aren't gonna solve this, then the war continues. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so there's an element to that I want to see on this game, and it is the chance of drop. And that's the big one is I want there to be a chance that when you kill someone and you loot their physical body, that the cool upgrades or whatever that they have, there's a chance that they drop it. It's not guaranteed. So if I have like a 5,000 PC nipple ring that gives me whatever +5 int at login, I want that item to have a chance to dest when I die. So that it's not going to be a guaranteed that you're just going to go loot everybody and like it's just not going to be a free for all. But there's going to be a chance of a rare drop. Also, you won't see it. If you're looking at a player, you won't know what they've got. So I want to keep that secret. I don't want people to know what modifications they have when you look at me. You won't be able to see it. It's under a shirt. It's under some armor. You don't know I'm wearing a nipple ring from Severon. So it's it's definitely something that we could do. That's going to have an element of surprise. Like holy crap, I just killed Trap Singer, and he had this +10 Prince Albert. I can't believe it's so big. Oh my god! And then you're going to have this item now that you've taken from another player that cost him 50,000 platinum. Like it's going to be devastating, but he can go out and get another one. And maybe some of these items or some of these modifications could be unique, and that's another big one. Is the unique system? We haven't really done much with it since the mid 2000s in regards to, and I know there was a time gap there, but I mean, we pretty much just made a bunch of weapons and then stopped building uniques. I think we should probably go back to making uniques again or limited edition items, things that have, a maximum amount at a time in a game. So I pretty much want to see some really cool rare stuff. If we do any type of player modification, it's going to be expensive, and the stuff that everybody wants the most is going to be either super, super rare or unique. The official stance on killing. Oh my god. What is the official stance on killing users killing users multis because of cross-character conflicts? That essentially is already covered, but not very well, in Mortal Law. Somebody just seriously, Andramelus, that's awesome. Okay, so well, apparently the nipple ring has already been developed, folks. We've got a nipple ring. Good job. Oh wow. So yeah, I guess there is some clarification needed. This is the kind of maturity I have up here, folks. It's super professional all day long. So we can't kill cross multi of users that were at war with supporting our enemies with multis. Okay, I'll totally follow that path for a second. Let's say, for example, you have a shaman or an alchemist or a wizard or something that is selling spells to somebody who's currently at war, and they're not directly involved in the war. So this is an opportunity for the diplomacy to happen, where the diplomacy handler, essentially the existing system that we were trying to build and it's not quite finished yet, but we're trying to get this done, is that if Organization A sees people supporting Organization B that they're at war with, so let's say members of Organization C are supporting Organization B with supplies and stuff. Organization A could go into the handler or go into the high court there and file a trade embargo against Organization C. Or they could do some sort of other diplomatic process that allows them to sanction or essentially declare that they have lost diplomatic relations with that other organization, and this can be a precursor to war. So, as Miyagi's saying there, this would be an act of war. Absolutely, this could be an act of war if the diplomatic process was there. So, if we actually had a legal framework for this, if we actually had a diplomatic framework for this that was built into the system, and everybody knew the consequences of it, that if you support organizations that are currently in war, it may have consequences diplomatically that may have a process which leads to war. So I think that's definitely something we should develop. Get that. Yeah, it definitely sounds like real life events. Yeah, for example, I mean, sanctioning Russia, you know, or the Russians having a problem with the Americans for sending weapons to Ukraine. Like, they're not at war right now, but it could be considered an act of war between Russia and the United States by sending weapons to Ukraine. Very similar thing. There should be some form of like the UN, yeah, or Aisling closing off gnome services to Cladith. You know what? The gnomes have turned off that tap so many times. It's probably one of the reasons why they got completely screwed over. I'm probably responsible for that. Aisling does not play, unfortunately. Really great player. I wish we could get her back. Like her or hate her, she was really, really good at playing this game. Maybe not the way that some people would like, but she knew what she was doing. So I do wish that she would come back. I mean, there's a bunch of old players that I wish would come back. Holy crap. But a lot of these people are, got kids now, and some of them are grandparents now. How many grandparents do we have on this channel? Will there be a camping trip? I don't know. Should there be? You have 4 kids? Dude. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I had 4 kids. Try the other hole. Jeez. Okay, bring back the camping trip. Listen, I would love to bring back the camping trip, but maybe do it in a better way. I mean, there's only gonna. I mean, to be fair, there's probably only gonna be like maximum 10 people who would show up at a camping trip. So let's see, closer to an airport, maybe. You mean you don't want to drive for like 2 hours out into the woods in Pennsylvania? Don't know why. It was 7 hours for you? Okay. Well, is meeting internet people really a good idea? God, no. But that's exactly why we should do it. Because it would be funny. Yeah, that's the thing. We should definitely meet in a place that's not in the United States. Mostly because of the chance of Pyron bringing a gun. No. Yeah, I think like the point is that we've got an entire player base of people in Europe, and they're really loyal to the game. They're really awesome. Like our European players are cool, really good guys. Honestly, like they're freaking hilarious too. I don't understand why we don't embrace that a little bit more and consider doing a Euro trip.
The apostates did a rave in Egypt back in 2004.
Nice. That's awesome. Yeah, I think we could definitely see a bit more of I guess, a community environment. I in 2024, probably in like spring or summer 2024, might be able to host an event in Mexico. Um, so that's possible. But again, I only have a limited amount of rooms, and it's not camping. Okay, so it'd be kind of like camping. There's mosquitoes. Um, there's drunk people everywhere. Uh, you know. You know what? It's actually going to be a boutique hotel. There's not going to be room service. There's going to be a pool, but yeah, I've only got like 7 rooms though, so we might have to use multiple hotels. But yeah, I am going to be spending a lot of my winters in Mexico, so that could be a place we could do things. I see new unreads. What are people? Oh, we're on the. Where's Kofor? Kofor's sleeping through this, isn't he? Uh, That's a really nice question. Thank you for asking that. Are we assigning too much work? Yes, always. I mean, the truth is that being here while also running multiple companies and trying to have a life and a relationship and, you know, not get fat, um, it takes a bit of a toll if you spend too much time sitting at your computer giggling away at funny text pictures and stuff. Um, it's absolutely a possibility that immortals will burn out. So what we're trying to do the most uh, is get the staff to prioritize, to spend time playing the game so that they can enjoy being here, and then not take on every single project for every single idea. Um, I'm actually having a meeting somewhat like this with the staff tomorrow, in which we're going to be discussing that exact thing: how to prioritize and focus on the main global issues that we need to solve to make the game more fun to play, but also to actually see some movement on the items that we plan on doing. If we have a list of 50 things that need to be done, we shouldn't be adding more things to that list until either those items are done or we've crossed them off and decided not to do them. So that's basically my thinking of that, is that we can avoid the burnout by just staying organized. And that's my plan for the team tomorrow, is to explain to them what the expectation is that we're going to try to get organized. We're trying to get some big issues done, because quite frankly, there's the player storage is my number one priority. Anything else, anything other than player storage right now can wait. I want the player storage done, and I want to get the looting back on the table, because we need to bring Rod back to that level of risk, but also evolve the game to the point where we got a backup stash of stuff, so that once we lose our inventory, we're not completely screwed and we have to go back to walking around naked, grabbing a stick, smashing spiders. Like, we're not going to go back to that. I want a few armor sets, in my vault, so that if I go out and lose my stuff, I've got a spare set. Serious question. Can we have some slot machines? Yes, Miyagi, we can have slot machines. Absolutely. But it will be restricted to the prestige area on Xerxes. So when that is finished, that area is complete, there will be a prestige restricted casino. So you'll have to be famous or infamous to get into the casino, in which there will be a slot machine. And okay, so we're about to wrap up here shortly. So we're going to do a last round of questions. If you guys have anything really pressing or left over that you want to follow up on, shoot those in now. Because we do have a wedding to prepare for, and I need to get a couple of bugs fixed before the wedding. Because well, wrote a wedding gift and it doesn't work properly. It desks when I load it. So, can I ask one controversial question? What happened to Saber? 32 days not logged in. Everything okay? Yes, everything is okay with Saber. He's just exceptionally busy, and essentially, we sort of knew going into this that him and I had made an agreement um, that we were going to bring the game back and get it playable. We weren't going to do anything with it. We were just going to maintain the game as is and get it playable. And that was the agreement between Sabs and I, is that there's absolutely no plan to dedicate a huge portion of our life to developing the game and becoming Saber. Yeah, again, everyone just call him Sabs. Honestly, I mean, I call him Tracy, but yeah, everyone calls him Sabs. We don't expect him to come back to be Lord of Chaos, to be full-time administrator right now. He's a caretaker, and that's the expectation that I have for him. And so he's doing a great job with that. Good job, guy. Love the guy. Wish he was here all the time, but he's a caretaker. So we have absolutely no expectation for him to be developing the game. He's just there as kind of a fail-safe in case something happens to me for some reason. If I'm unable to log in, or let's just say I get hit by a car in Mexico, it would be important that the game has a redundancy built into it through the administration. And so we have Saber, we have Asmodine, we have Skullslayer, and we have Celery. So it's kind of a lineage, I guess you would say, is if I'm not here anymore, the game continues, and that's what's important. So, anything else? Oh, look, golf claps! Yay!
Is there any plan to add some sort of game-based mechanic to give out shields or summons and resurrections? That's one of the big limitations to activity these days.
Oh, you know what? I was actually kind of shocked nobody had asked that. I think that from like day one when we first came back, that had been proposed. Like literally the day we put the game back up, we were like, okay, we logged back in. What are we gonna do? And here's our list. And we made a list, and I actually still have it. The first day, what our plans were, and that was on the list, and we never did it. We never did it because we went with the multis, and the multis started logging in their support guilds, and the support guilds have always been logged in. So there's still a shortage of services. There's still a shortage. There's a disconnect between people having access to, like, for example, the enchant process or certain spells. But we didn't want to build an NPC that does everything. Now that being said, there is a mechanic that is being developed that will permit the I guess what you could say, the remote use or the transport of certain abilities. But we haven't finished it yet, of course. But it is being developed in a way that will allow players to have access to certain things when the provider is offline. So can't really go completely into detail on that just because I don't want it to give an expectation of something that may not happen yet. But we do actually have a solution for that. It's just not it's not an NPC that's going to stand there and temper your sword.